Hi everyone, welcome to the Schwoven's Nest. Today I'm going to show you how to make this Magnolia Wreath, which is a dupe that I saw on Wayfair, on Etsy, a bunch of different places, and they're really expensive because they're magnolia flowers. The items you'll need for this dupe are an 18-inch wood wreath frame or an embroidery hoop. You'll need some Dollar Tree magnolia blooms in the color of your choice. You'll need 9 of the large green leaves that look like magnolia leaves, a hot glue gun, white and dark gray paint in either acrylic or chalk, and some sandpaper. This hoop wreath that I got at Michael's, it was $10 and I actually got it for 50% off, so it was only $5. I used my Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint to give it one coat, and now I'm using some sandpaper to scuff up the edges because I want it to look a little weathered and not so perfect. The magnolia blooms from Dollar Tree have this bright green center, and I didn't like the look of that, so I decided to use some of the dark gray acrylic paint and just dab some of it on just to mute the green a little bit so it wasn't so bright. I did this to all 9 of the blooms and then I just let them dry. Once the blooms were dry, I decided to take some of them, and actually I did this to pretty much most of them. I just wanted the petals to be a little bit closer together, more like a real magnolia leaf. So I used some hot glue and then I pressed them together. I also glued some of the leaves together so it would form more of a close-knit flower. The first thing I decided to put on the wreath was the leaves. These are some old hydrangea leaves that I had, and I painted them dark green with some hunter green paint. Actually, the first thing that I did was I cut them a little bit smaller so they would mimic the shape of a magnolia wreath. Then I painted them with some dark green acrylic paint, let them dry, and then I took some of my matte Mod Podge and glazed them over with that. This made them nice and thick and crisp, and that just gave that bit of a shine color like magnolia leaves have. I'm going to group 3 of them together at the top, and then I'll group another 3 at the bottom, and then probably fit some in between as well. I had a bit of the stem left on the magnolia flowers, so I decided to trim that down because I wouldn't need it. Sorry, this is kind of out of frame, but you can kind of get the idea. And then I started gluing them onto the wooden frame. To make the flowers look more realistic and not so perfect, I decided to have them facing opposite direction. So the first one you can see here I am placing so it faces the outside of the wreath, and the next one will be facing the inside of the wreath. I repeated the process until I used all the 7 blooms. Here are the blooms complete, and I'm going to start putting on the rest of the leaves. I'm going to do a 3 at this end, and as I was gluing this one on, I decided that it would probably look really nice if there was a little bit more dimension to the leaves instead of putting them all on the top. I flipped the wreath over and put the next 2 leaves glued to the bottom of the wreath, which gave it a little bit more texture. I also placed a few leaves on the underside of the blooms, glued to the back of the frame, just so they would peek out a little bit amongst the flowers. After I was done with the leaves, I noticed a couple of empty spots in the flowers. So I cut off some of the petals from one of the extra blooms that I had. I took 2 petals, glued them together with some hot glue just to make a little bit more fullness, and then I glued them inside the empty spots. The other thing I decided to do was to add some of these little white pebbly looking flowers. They're really pretty, and I just didn't like the way the green on the leaves was so plain, so I took some hot glue, I trimmed some of these down and just put little bits and pieces throughout the blooms and on the ends to give the leaves a little bit more texture as well. So looking again at the wreath where I got my inspiration, it has minimal blooms and more greenery. Mine has more blooms, a little bit less greenery, but I think it turned out really well. I think it's a good copycat or a dupe of it, and I'm really pleased with the results, and I love the way it looks. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and click the bell to get notified when I upload new videos. Thanks for your support, and thanks for watching.